Today in this sessions we are discussing Indian Constitution. So let's start with the Constitution, the first session. So before understanding about the Indian Constitution, you have to be very clear about few terms. So as you can see here, the term written here is preamble, then parts, then articles, then schedules. Okay. So listen to me carefully. Just imagine the Indian Constitution as a book. So it is a book or a novel. Definitely it is like a book. Definitely have what? A preface. So every book have a preface. After preface you can definitely see chapters inside the book. And each chapters, inside the chapter we are having some lessons. So if we consider the Indian Constitution as a book, the preface of the Indian Constitution is called as preamble. So the name they are using, the term they are using differently for Indian Constitution. So you have to understand that what is the preface of the Indian Constitution? We call the preface as preamble. Okay. And after the preamble, if you consider a book, after the preface we are having chapters. So in the Indian Constitution, if we consider it as a book, the chapters they call it as parts. So it is very clear that the preface of the Indian Constitution is preamble, and the chapters inside the book, Indian Constitution book, we call it as parts. And inside that part we are having small lessons. We call here the lessons as articles. Okay. So consider that Indian Constitution as a book, preface is preamble. Inside the preamble we are having chapters. We call the chapters as parts. Inside the parts we are having articles or lessons. So consider the Indian Constitution as a book. You are very clear about the three terms: preamble, what is preamble, what is parts, and what is articles. And consider one more point. So you are getting an extra booklet free along with the book. So we call the extra booklet along with the Indian Constitution as schedule. Okay, so that means we now learn four terms: preamble, parts, articles, and schedules. Schedule means extra booklet. Why we are keeping this schedule as an extra thing? Because they written some facts and figures in the schedule that need frequent changes. For example, Schedule 1 to 12 schedules are there totally. In Schedule 2, they mention about the salaries of the government officials like Prime Minister, President, etc. So you can imagine that the salary of the first Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, is not same as the salary of the right now Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So the salary will change. That means the amount need frequent changes. So for those factors that need frequent changes, we kept those factors in a separate booklet like thing. We call it as schedule. So that's why it is kept separately away from, or it is not a part of the Constitution. It is kept away from the main Constitution book. So I think it is very clear for you what is preamble, what is parts, what is articles, and what is schedule. For learning these 4 points, consider and imagine that the Constitution as a book, preface is preamble, chapters as parts, inside the chapters lessons as articles, separate free booklet, we call it as schedules. So how many parts are there in the Indian Constitution? 25 parts are there right now, and 465 articles are there, 465 plus, because we are adding articles day by day. And along with these three facts, we are having some more extra thing, that is schedule. We have 12 schedules. Schedule 1, Schedule 2, Schedule 3, likewise 12 schedules are there. Remember, Schedule 2, they are talking about the salaries and the payments of all the government officials. So let's go in deep. Okay. Now I am talking about the preamble. So as we know that preambles refers to the introduction to the Constitution, or we simply call it as the preface of the Constitution. So what it contains? It contains the summary or essence of the Constitution. And you have to be very clear that the idea of the preamble was borrowed from Constitution of India. It was not initial part of the Constitution. It was borrowed from the US Constitution, United States Constitution. And when you look into the preamble, they just clearly mention like this in quotes, we, the people of India, have solemnly resolved to the constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thought, expressions, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution. Quotes complete. So, this is written in the preamble. So, that's why we call this preamble as the preface or the intro of the Constitution. So, it is a preface. Jawaharlal Nehru is the architect. These are the facts you have to remember. And it was adopted in 1949 January 22. It was borrowed from USA and it was amended in 1976. So, you have to know what is amendment. Okay. And you know that, you know what, in Indian Constitution we built in 1947 time period, make in 1947 time period, and now it is 2018. So this is a long time lag or time gap is there between the making of the Constitution and the running of it. So while it was moving or while it was running, we need to change frequently the factors and the details written there in the Constitution according to our needs. So the editing or the re-editing of the Constitution is called as amendment. For every re-editing, we have to get the permission from the Parliament. So Parliament grouply discussing about the changes they need and they will pass it as an act. So that act is called as Amendment Act or Amendment simply. And the preface, the preamble of the Constitution was only once was amended in 1976 by the 42nd Constitution Amendment Act. Okay, so remember it is very important. Why they amended? The main ultimate plan for this amendment was in 1976 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, they inserted few words into the intro. That means they introduced secular, socialist, unity and integrity words into the introduction of the Constitution. So now the correct words written in the Indian preamble is sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Either it is easy for you to remember like this: se de re, sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Okay, so this is the important point related to the preamble. And don't forget, I will mention some more ideas related to the preamble. So there are some personalities who have some opinions on this preamble, like this Thakur Das Bhargava, so one important personality, and he called this preamble as the soul of the Constitution. Okay, so he called it as the soul of the Constitution. So that means what? For your exams, they will ask one question, direct questions. Who called preamble as the soul of the Constitution? The answer is Thakur Das Bhargava. Likewise, one more dialogues. It was by K.M. Munshi. He called the preamble as the political horoscope. So don't forget these two names, K.M. Munshi and Thakur Das Bhargava. Okay, so these are main simple points related to the preambles we finished. Now we are talking about the important parts. So what is parts? Parts are the chapters inside the constitutions. So there are 25 parts, and the main important parts for our exam is part 1, union and its territory, part 2, citizenship, part 3, fundamental rights, part 4, DPSP, directive principle of state policy, part 4A. You see the A, it was later added. That's why the suffix A. So later added means amendment was happened. So just because of some amendment it was added. So fundamental duties is written in part 4A. So the highlight there is fundamental duty was not a part of the constitution initially. It was added later. That is important. So part 1, 2, 3, 4 and 4a are very important for our exams. So part 1 is the important land, union and territory. Part 2, those people living in this land, that is citizenship. Part 3, those people who's living in this land have some rights. And part 4, those people who's living in this land have some, the government has some responsibility over them, that is directive principle of state policy. And part 4a, those people, those citizens who are living in this land have some rights, along with that they have some fundamental duties. Okay, and you also need to remember the articles related to each parts. That means part 1, it is talking about union and its territory, and the lessons inside those union and territories are written in 4 chapters, simply not chapters, 4 articles: article 1, article 2, article 3 and article 4. So my question for you, article 3 is related to which part? Then you have to say that it is in part 1. Okay, likewise about citizenship of India, you know that we have single citizenship. The points related to the single citizenships are clearly mentioned in article 5, article 6, article 7, article 8, article 9, article 10 and article 11. Okay, and the fundamental rights, those rights we are given to the citizenship of citizens of India, is clearly mentioned in part 3, and the articles are article 12 to 35. Okay, so this is very important for our exam. Fundamental rights, the 12 to 35 articles are very important, especially the fundamental rights articles. And part 4, it is directive principle of state policy. So those principles the government has to keep in mind when they make some law or act that affecting the people of India. So those points, directive principles of state policy, that means what? The government or the state need to change some policies. They have to keep the main ideologies of India, like Gandhian principle, socialism, etc. And the article associated with the part 4 is 36 to 51. As we already mentioned, part 4a was later added or later amended. The point there inside is fundamental duties, and it was clearly mentioned in article 51a. Okay, and the other important parts other than these 1, 2, 3, 4, 4a, it is part 9 talking about panchayat, and article is 243 to 243o, and 9a and 9b. 9a is municipalities. So panchayat means local self-government, municipalities means urban self-governments. Okay, and 9b is cooperative societies. Cooperative societies like Amul, and or in Kerala it is called as Milma, those kind of cooperative society for the upliftment of the weaker section of India. So it is mentioned in part 9b. And part 15, they talk about the election. Okay, it is in article 324 to 329a. So we have to remember this election point, very important. Why? Because lots of elections are going right now in this country as we compare related to the current affair. Okay, and in article 18 we are talking about the emergency provisions of Indian constitution. It is mentioned in article 352 to 360. Emergency provisions means those emergency things that the presidents can deal directly. That topic we will discuss later. And in part 20 they are talking about the amendment. I already mentioned what is amendment, and the article associated with this amendment or re-editing of the constitution is clearly mentioned in article 368. So the article is very important. Which article is associated with the amendment of Constitution of India? Options 365, 366, 367, 368. Then your answer is 368. Okay, so we now till this point we talk about preamble, articles 1 to 4, article 5 to 11, article 12 to 35, article 36 to 51 and 51a in part 1, 2, 3, 4 and 4a. Now today's most highlighted point, that is the schedules. I already told you that we have 12 schedules and these 12 schedules are clearly mentioned 1, 2, 3, 4, and we are considering this 12 schedule as a separate booklet. Why? Because those factors written in these 12 schedules are changing accordingly. So we need to keep it separately. So let's start with the 12 schedules. The first schedule is related to state and union territories. So what are the different names given to the states, how the boundaries are classified, how many union territories are there, those factors are clearly mentioned in schedule 1. Second schedule, as we already told, the salaries of president, salaries of prime minister, salary of chief justice of India. So those salaries are clearly mentioned in schedule 2. Schedule 1, states and UT. Schedule 2, salary. Schedule 3, oath and affirmation. So when one minister came into power, or one MLA or one member of parliament is coming into the service, he definitely have an oath and affirmation. So those points that the person is going to take an oath is written clearly in the schedule 3. And the fourth one is seat in council of states. So you know that in the parliament we are having two bodies or two houses. One is Lok Sabha and the second one is Rajya Sabha. Lok Sabha, we call it as the house of the people. Why? Because the people are electing the members directly. So Lok Sabha is house of the people, and likewise the Rajya Sabha, it is called as the council of states. Okay, so the state representation is there in the Rajya Sabha, and the people's representation is there in the Lok Sabha. So how we are going to give the seats, or how we are allotting the seats in the council of states or the Rajya Sabha, is clearly mentioned in the in the fourth schedule. Okay, so fourth schedule is seat in the council of states. And 5 and 6 schedules, we are talking about the scheduled areas and the tribal areas. Scheduled areas are those areas that have a special protection or special coverage by the President of India. And the tribal areas are those ethnic groups living ethnic societies those are living. So we are considering them as separately. So 5 and 6 schedules are directly dealing with the President of India, because he is the person who is taking care of the scheduled areas and the tribal areas in this country. And the 7th schedule, we are talking about the distribution of power. From the term itself, you come to know that what is the distribution of power, between whom and whom. So we know that we are having a federal structure, India as a common power, and along with that we are having separate states like Bihar, like UP. We are separate group of states combined together as a federal structure, and we are having a country, India. And we definitely have a distribution of power between the central government and the each state government. So that distribution of power between the central and the state government is mentioned in the 7th schedule. That is the distribution of power between the state and the center. And the schedule 8, they are talking about languages, and we know that we have lots of varieties of language in this land, and all these few languages get the classical status, few are not getting it, few languages are not using. So they are having different types of language and the details. So this is mentioned clearly in the 8th schedule. And now the 9th schedule. 9th schedule, we are talking about special law. Special laws are those laws which the government can directly implement on the people. So I will give an example, that Armed Force Special Power Act. One of the Special Power Act was given to the army people to take actions against the common people or civilian peoples in the Manipur, Nagaland area. So that kind of special laws implementing on the civilian life is clearly mentioned in the 9th schedule of the Indian Constitution. And the next point here is the 10th schedule, that is anti-defection law. Anti-defection law is that it is against the defection. Defection means what? If I am an MP who is a Congress MP, and after winning the election, if I change my party to some other party, then that election or that election was considered as invalid by the election commissioner. Okay, that means if I change the party after winning the elections, then that election is not void, so it is invalid. So that is anti-defection law, clearly mentioned in the 10th schedule of the Indian Constitution schedules. And 11th schedule, Panchayat, we already know Panchayat is local self-government, and the 12th schedule is municipalities, urban self-government. So we discussed how many schedules? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 schedules. These are the important 12 schedules mentioned in the Indian Constitution. And now we are just revising whatever topics we discussed right now. We talk about the preamble. We know that it is a preface of the Constitution, and we are having 25 chapters. We call it as parts, and inside the 25 chapters or the parts we are having different articles. Okay, we are having 465 articles. So preamble, term preamble is clear, term part is clear, the word article is clear, and the 12 schedules we clearly mentioned. So in this slide we clearly focused on two topics ultimately, that is preamble and schedule. Okay, so hope you understand the topics. See you in the next sessions. Thank you so much.